So
This meeting is being recorded.
I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. I see Melissa has joined us. Welcome. All right, members present, all of us, hear from the public. No public to be heard for Selectmen's briefing. Unfortunately, I'd sent out an email. I don't know if you all got it yet, but we were informed today of the passing of Jack Barclay, a longtime member of the Wetland Committee, the original chairman of the Tremco Property Plan Committee, and also Leon Gardner, who had served the community for more years than I'm even aware of. We are looking up the history, but our condolences obviously to their families. They were true gentlemen. New team members, Sherry Susie and Lynn Byberg, are working in very smoothly. I had a meeting this morning with Lynn, and she's very happy with the transition from Kara and the switch of positions there. And so far, everything seems to be going very smoothly. This was something I had on for our last agenda, so it's a bit of old news, and I think you folks know about it, but the Wagon Shed Cattle Rock Brownfields application was submitted on time on September 23rd. Many thanks to Chris, who I know put many hours into that, Ann and Sam and Valerie and all the other group that gave us a hand on that. It's much appreciated. And I believe we're told hopefully you're going to hear around the middle of December. Was that correct, Chris?
Yeah, December 15th,
Okay.
they say.
Southworth Drive and Pompey Road have tentatively been rescheduled for work to start early spring with at least the storm basins and that. And again, that's going to be done with funds that we've secured through another grant, with the steep grant, in which we did some matching funds of $100,000. It was approved by town meeting. The split units have been installed at the firehouse. We had a minor glitch. I think I mentioned to the board earlier that what we found out after the new ones were involved were prior to that, they had never been hooked up to the generator system. So last I spoke to the chief there, that was in the process of being scheduled, and we have money left over in that ARPA funding. So that's not a problem. Knowlton Memorial Hall, Babcock Library, work started last Friday and is proceeding. Because of some of the work going on and concerns about safety and that, I met with one of the library directors, and we decided that we would close the library and Knowlton Hall for today and tomorrow. And that should give the phase of all the drilling and everything should be done by the end of business on Thursday. And that seems to be proceeding very well. Ashford School Program, I'm going to hold off on comments on that because it is on our agenda. I'm also a bit new. I've been meeting with our veterans representative, Gary, and we are making preparations for dedication of some new trees at the Ashford Memorial site and a special tribute to at least one veteran. Gary is hoping to have the Boy Scouts present the colors there and have a minor ceremony with the presentation of some medals that are long overdue. Veterans Day is actually on the 11th, but because of the kids being in school and that, we're going to do it on the 12th. And Roger, if you or Catherine like to take part, you're certainly welcome and appreciate the help and assistance.
Okay.
Should be very nice. And I appreciate the efforts that Gary has been putting into it. That's all I have on the first Selectmen's briefing. Item 5 on the agenda is acceptance of the minutes of the following meetings. A, regular meeting of September 19th, 22. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Yes,
Catherine?
second. Yes, I already second.
Any corrections or additions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Unanimous. Special meeting of September 27th, 22. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Roger's made the motion. Is there a second?
Second, I just wanted to double check something. I'm trying to remember which meeting it was. There was a motion, I'll second this for the purpose of discussion.
Okay,
The meeting where we met with, and bear with me, I don't have it right in front of me. I know I looked at these before.
Roger said that
There was a
one with
motion,
Sherry.
there was a motion missing from the minutes that I sent to you, Bill, from one of the sets of minutes.
Yeah,
so-
and I don't have that in front of me either. I know you did send me something. It was something about there was a motion made but wasn't reflected in the written minutes.
Yes, give me
Regarding
just
the-
a, yeah, give me just a second if you would. I just want to double check.
Sure.
I may have, it was in the August 15th minutes, which we had already approved. But I do want to point that out to you, and we'll figure out how to address it after this. As far as the motion that's currently on the docket here, or that we've already spoken to, you can go ahead with that.
Are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Item C under 5, special meeting of September 28th, 22. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
We have a motion made and seconded. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
So Bill-
Just quickly on that, on the August meeting that you're referencing, Catherine, we'll put that
Yes.
on our agenda, our regular meeting agenda for next Monday. and we can
Perfect, thank
address
you.
that. We can address
Perfect,
that.
thank you.
What I heard from Chris was that stranger that was taking the minutes for that forgot to put it into the written minutes. So it didn't. But we'll make that correction.
Very good.
We'll do that in the next minute.
You know, I thought that a motion had been made, so when I double checked, it was there. Okay.
All right, item 6 here from boards, commissions, committees, or departments. Melissa, I'm going to assume, and you're muted, that you want to talk about the potential of a fair rent commission and some of the concerns about the increases in rent.
Yes,
So if you don't mind, we'll hold off on, unless you have other comments,
no, just
Um,
that.
we'll address that when we get to that on the agenda.
That's fine.
Okay. No other boards and commissions? Okay. Well, how do you like that? Item 7, old business. Well, no, we're gonna move item A to 8B, so you're still not on yet, Melissa. Discuss reopening strategies. Everything is status quo. We continue to monitor the reports. Ashford continues and all the towns in Eastern Highland Health District remain in the yellow. I'm surprised
So-
we didn't see a bit of a surge this week because of school, but we'll continue to monitor that. You had a question, Kev?
Yeah, what are we doing with item A? Why aren't we talking about that first?
Chris asked that that be put under new business and moved
Oh,
down
I
to
see.
8B.
All right. Okay, thank you. So yes, in fact, I know of 2 people who caught COVID over the last couple of weeks.
Were they serious cases or?
They were pretty miserable, but not serious to the point of being in the hospital.
I won't mention names, but one of our staff was out, not in this building today, sounded terrible.
Yeah.
And that person got sick directly after getting the booster. And the person went to the doctors today and he said that he's seeing that quite a bit. And anyway, they're directly attributing it to the booster. And I guess
Oh,
the new chemical.
that's interesting because we put off getting the booster until next week because I have some other things to do during this week.
My wife and I
So-
were going to the clinic that was held Thursday by Martha from the school at Knowle Hall. But we found out they didn't have the senior flu shot. So we put off getting it, but our intention is also to get both of them. I'm also hearing that, and my doctor warned me that the flu season is ahead of schedule up in Canada with a number of more cases, a bit abnormal. Of course, I don't know what they're comparing it to because last year they were kind of non-existent. But
Yeah.
everybody's being encouraged to get those flu shots.
Well, I'm hoping people are not thinking that COVID has gone away because it hasn't. And,
Yeah. No,
you know.
absolutely. Okay, item C is Ashford Advisory School Building Committee. We are presently working to set up a meeting with our new treasurer, bond counsel, Cindy. Jane will be invited, although I believe she's working, and Jim Rupert. And hopefully by our meeting on Monday, I'll have a report for you folks regarding that. COVID update, I think we just talked about that as item D. Item E, update status of after-school program proposed by the rec committee. I anticipated that Sherry and/or Dave Roston was going to join us today. They have not. Catherine, I know you had a question about it. Do you want to address that?
the question about the ad or a question about the program?
The program in general, but the ad or whatever else you'd like to address on that.
Yeah, I expressed concern to you about the fact that an ad went out when we specifically told her not to put an ad out to fill positions. I think it's really important that we manage the public's expectations on this. There's still quite a bit of work to be done on this, including funding. And so to, go ahead and put something out there that says, hey, job openings, big bold letters, when in fact this program has not been approved by our board, is disconcerting. So that was my first thing. The other thing is if I understood correctly, is it that the rec director is thinking that person, that she will be managing this after-school program?
I have told her that is not our intent. And
Good.
I've expressed that both to Sherry and to Dave, who was, as far as I know, I haven't heard from him. I thought he was going to be back this week. But I haven't heard from him. It's sort of been running the point on that. And,
Okay.
way back when, and I think I shared it with you folks, Sherry asked me or expressed an interest in running it. And I told her I just didn't think that would be proper and it's too much work and involvement. And I hopefully made that very clear to her.
Okay. And I
but
very
it's
much appreciate that.
It's certainly understood. And I did express that to Dave. That's one of the reasons, and it's one of the areas that we don't have the costing done. I think I told you folks the liability insurance I verified with Kerm is covered under our general umbrella, so there's no cost there, which was good news. We've checked out the cost for workers' comp, anticipated 3 employees and that, and we've got a figure of about $1,500 a year. But the
Right.
big thing is similar to what the Babcock Library does with their payroll. We don't handle their payroll at all. There's a local group that handles that for them. And that's what Dave has, and I haven't seen a report on it, trying to put together what the cost of that would be to manage and administer that program. But those are 2 links. And I agree. And taking a second look at that article, Catherine, it could have been worded better. I think the two things that are the biggest challenges for us and for the program in general is finalizing the cost and making it affordable for those who want to partake in it. And an equal thing is the challenge of getting employees for them, reliable employees. And now, for instance, that ad, now we just put it in the Citizen. We only got one response. Incidentally, and that person, it was made clear, I make sure, because I wrote an email, I think I copied you folks on it, to make sure that that had not been authorized yet, and we were just putting feelers out there to see if there was an interest. But I see this thing at the very earliest, and I emphasize earliest, of January 1st, if in fact that happens. But our board has got to make the final decision on that and look at the big picture.
What are, do we know what the medical, from a medical perspective, if a child gets injured in that program, we won't have a nurse on site. So, was there any consideration of that in any of the discussions you've had with them, Bill?
Well, only under the general liability, and assuming, I don't know what Martha's hours are up there, whether they end at 3 or 3:30 or not. Those are certainly things we can look at. Part of the initial supply of things that, and we've looked at a very general list of necessities we need up there, besides some food and some recreational tools, would be a medical kit and that sort of thing. But that's certainly something, Catherine, I think we need to take a look at.
Right, I wouldn't assume that the school nurse is going to be there. This is a program on its own. It's not something the school is managing. Do we know if Sherry has had any conversations with the school about the program, the proposed program?
She has had
We gave
them.
her, yeah, because we gave her very specific instructions on how to start this.
Yeah, she has had some informal discussions. I've also, at least one Board of Ed meeting, did an informal presentation of what we were researching. And that's when, in fact, I think it's reflected in their minutes. That's when they said that they would suggest that we pursue our research and
Right.
support it in general, and also accommodate the program with use, as they had in the past, of the cafeteria and a limited use of the gymnasium. So to that extent, they are informed. Getting into the nitty gritty yet, until we have final numbers, I have not done, Catherine.
That makes perfect sense. Also, in the draft of the parent handbook that we were provided. By the way, the reason I asked for another copy was because it was my understanding during the meeting where this was discussed with them, or they talked with us, that they had some updates that they were making, but it doesn't appear that they did. So there on just the second page, it says it's this letter to dear parents and guardians, and it says our staff, and we're thrilled to announce that our after school director, Haley Jacobs, is returning as director for the upcoming school year. What is that? Is that, and it has, it's Sherry York's name. Sherry's name is at the end of this letter.
Yeah, and I hopefully the copy you got indicates draft at the top. That was kind of a mishmash of the program that's being held in Coventry and the booklet they're using, and it's far from being complete. And it obviously needs a lot of fine tuning and input from our board.
Well, one of the things that's in there that's is that there are certain policies and protocols in emergency management that says, in this case, and I'm assuming that this is something that we're using as kind of a little bit of a template, is that staff are trained in mandated reporting, concussion protocol, first aid, CPR, EpiPen and medication administration, behavior management, preventing bullying, and special needs, among others. When I look at the costs of the program, I don't see anything for training.
And you've got a incomplete cost right now, and that's one of the reasons we're not at a position.
so I just
really
wanna-
consider it, But that's
Yeah, I just
certainly
wanted to,
something that we're gonna have to include in anticipated cost. I mean, also, we're gonna have to do extensive background checks on potential
yes.
staff that we'll consider and a number of things. So, and that, you know, all the things that you're pointing out, and we're discussing, Catherine, is why we're not at a point to make any formal considerations yet. But those are all pieces
Good.
that legitimately have to be addressed. You know, we know there's a need there. Our hearts
Yep.
are hoping this will happen, but it's a very complicated program. And that's why I think our board has taken our time and making sure we do as much research as possible on it before we're ready for any sort of final presentation.
Thank
to
you
the
for
general
speaking of
public.
it. Thank you for speaking of it that way. I feel the same.
Good, good. Anything else on that?
Nope.
Okay. And also someone, I know she's on with us, but we've also been trying to keep Melissa in the loop on this because we've
Good.
got a lot of input from her and direction on that, which is really appreciated.
Very much appreciated.
Street lighting, other than me continually to bug Eversource, no update on that. Item G, American Rescue Plan potential for project funding. I'm going to carry this on our next meeting. There are some things that I want to address, but because this is a special meeting, I'm a little apprehensive to do it. Particularly regarding the radios and the fire department and other discussions that have been going on. But I'll update you folks next Monday on all of the particulars of that. Trimco House Review Committee, I did finally, I don't know, I think I forwarded on to you, got a response from Bob Hurd that he's promising us by the end of the month he'll have something. I have had a very preliminary talk with council regarding what we do with the contract that we've got with them, and I have not heard anything back from council yet, but
So my recommendation is that if we do not hear back from him, he does not provide us with what we've asked for by the date he has now said he will, that we cut bait.
Yeah.
This is pretty much outrageous.
well, we've been more than patient.
Boy, yes.
Yes.
Okay, item I, revisit employee insurance incentive program. Catherine, I prefer to move on this next week. I have not got a solid answer again from council.
All right. Thank you.
But we will carry this on our next agenda. New business. Item A, approve Thanksgiving early closing. We'd like to close at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, November 23rd.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve that the hours for Wednesday, November 23rd, that we have an early closing at 3 p.m.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion that's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, item B, Melissa, on mute. Anticipated apartment rent increases, discuss the establishment of the Hartford of the Fair Rent Commission. I'm sorry I mentioned Hartford. It was a habit. I was the charter chairman of the Hartford Fair Rent Commission way back 100 years ago when I had an awful lot of hair and in Hartford, and it was a very successful commission, and I enjoyed serving as a commissioner. But I have, before Melissa comments, I did send off an email to Duncan and asked him to do a little research on what we would have to do to start one if we in fact wanted to go in that direction. I haven't heard back from him yet, but I assume I will in the near future. Melissa, the floor is yours.
So I had found out from clients over the past few months that their rents are going up, some by $500. That after, and I forgot my notes at school, so I apologize, but after the last realtor purchased all of the apartments in town, as people's leases started to expire, my assumption is that he wants them to be comparable rents to what is in the area, which is about $1,400 to $1,500. So he's not unjustified, or they're not unjustified, but for people's rent to jump that much in 1 year to another is huge. And a lot of people choose to live in those apartments because they are low income and that's what they can afford. So I'm super worried about what's going to happen to those families, whether they're going to be evicted, or if they're just going to go without, food or electricity, or they're going to have to give something up to be able to pay that rent if it does go up. I'm also, and the reason I mentioned the Fair Housing Committee is because looking at the complaints those tenants have had of those buildings, of the water not working, the water not being safe to drink, lights in hallways not working, lights in parking lots not working, like all of those things, there's more. By law, an apartment can't raise your rent 6 months after a complaint was filed unless that complaint was dealt with.
That's interesting.
That's very interesting.
So I feel like either we need to, and I don't know very much about the Fair Housing Commission or what we would even need to do it, but I think maybe it's something we should look into, or we need to hold some sort of a town meeting to inform these people of what their rights are and help them get what they deserve.
I've got a meeting that I'm trying to schedule either this week or the first part of next week with Lynette from the Eastern Highland Health Department. It's regarding some complaints between neighbors up in the Lake Chaffee area. But I'm thinking, Melissa, it'd be good maybe if we did it on one of the days you're here in the building, have you sit in and do another part of that meeting to just go over that, what you just mentioned, because as you folks probably know, all of the apartment houses in town, with the exception of Ashford Hills over on Varga Road, have been bought by one individual LLC out of New York City. And I've also got a number of complaints, but I've also got complaints about Ashford Hills with lack of potable water,
Right.
lighting concerns, other concerns in general. As you say that, maybe that would be the time, Melissa, that we should bring them up with Eastern Health and ask them to do a full inspection and come up with a list or whatever and see where we
There
can
are
go.
laws in place. Like the law says that if somebody does have a complaint against an apartment building, or if they're over, I think it's 62, you can continue paying your current rent. So say it's $850, you would keep paying your $850 every month while you filed the complaint with either a court or with the apartment complex. So, we would obviously need somebody to help us, guide us on what the actual laws are, so we're not steering families wrong. But that would be, if the Fair Housing Commission wasn't a good idea for Ashford, that just educating people of how they can protect themselves might be another option.
While I approve the concept of the Fair Rent Commission, to be honest with you, I don't think we have time to do that wait for that anyway, because obviously it's going to take probably several months at the soonest before we could get somebody who's interested of folks to serve on it and go through the town meeting process. But this other thing I think we could act on immediately. Do you have statute numbers or anything
I do, and that's the stuff that I had forgotten at school today.
Okay, if you could email that to me,
Mhm.
and what
Can you
I'll do is
actually-
I'll send that on to town council.
I can email it to all three of you.
Excellent.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Bill, and just to do another update on this, while I was first selectman, I too received a number of complaints, and actually they were getting routed over to our housing authority, because people thought that that was where they should go. And so both Christine and I were fielding these, but I went out with, shoot, blanking out on his name, to inspect the different things that were being complained about. And I have pictures of their basements flooded and the stuff growing up the walls in the hallways, stairwells. And I had done quite a bit of research. So I have research on all the companies. It's really a conglomeration of a few companies. And in fact, their attorney is one of the primary holders in the company. So because, and I had also complained to them, they have, you can go on their website for their different apartment complexes. And finally, the way that I got a response from them was to say, I'm at the point now, since you haven't responded to these people's complaints, and they've been making them since you took over, and prior to that, there were complaints, that I was perfectly fine with contacting the news and whatever to do an expose on them. We know that Eastern Highlands has told us that they are very, very familiar with the owners of these properties, not only these ones, but the other ones that are in the area. And the reason they're so familiar with them is because of all of the complaints that have come in over the years, based upon how they don't manage the facilities really at all. So in one case, during a Memorial Day weekend, I found out that in one of the buildings, they'd gone with a number of the apartments had gone without water for, at that point in time, I think it was 7 days. And then by the time it got resolved and it had to have the state come in, it wasn't something that Eastern Highlands could address. It's when it's a water issue, it's the state had to come in. And that's when I finally got to talk with their person, the company's person who's supposed to be managing the properties. And he at the time said they were over, in over their head. But this company has a track record of purchasing properties, not taking very good care of them, upping the rents, and then flipping them.
Yeah. I last December, I got a very similar call regarding Ashford Hills, regarding a different company than you're talking about right now, but they've owned it. They have changed management since then, but that entire building, there's over 60 units in that complex, was without water, and it was multiple days. And I visited one young mother, had 2 babies. It's kind of heartbreaking. And I did speak with Eastern Highland and the state sanitarian, and they kind of, oversaw restoration of it. But I've heard even since then, there are on or off situations where the water is not potable. So there are definitely things that we have to look at there, but
I just have fear that the company is going to scare people into leaving because they know that, they've been told their rent's going up and they can't afford it. So they leave and they end up, living on somebody's couch or being homeless when we could have prevented it by trying to step in.
Yep.
People I talked with liked living there. They liked the location, they liked the school, that kind of thing. It's unfortunate that they're being victimized.
No, I agree. In fact, this one lady that I was mentioning, I visited in December, and then I ended up meeting with a bunch of tenants over there. They love the town. They love the town. She in particular, I believe, was from the Bridgeport area. Absolutely loved the school. And their hearts are really in town now, and they want to be a productive part of it. So I think, we owe it to them for a number of reasons. But Melissa and I have talked about, and I'm going to convene a meeting with some of the stakeholders in town regarding the food program. Our churches in particular, we're thinking about the Housing Authority, perhaps even KIT as agent for the elderly, and sharing some of our concerns, because if this does happen, it's going to be happening fairly soon during the worst time of the year,
Right.
In the winter. So hopefully by our next meeting, we'll have more of a complete report and I can get some input from town council. But I think this does demand our immediate attention, and we'll stay on it and report back to the board as ASAP. And if we need to call a special meeting on it, we will.
All right.
I,
Sounds good.
I want to add one more thing. When I went out there, and I went out on multiple occasions, particularly the first time, it was a young couple with a infant and they couldn't shower, they couldn't bathe the child, etc. When I went into that building and I saw what those people were living with in terms of downstairs where they're supposed to have, what is it, facilities for washing clothes, washer and dryer, etc. I swear I was moved to tears.
Yeah.
People that are paying the amount of rent that they're already paying should not have to live under those conditions.
Yeah, no, I agree. Anything else, Melissa?
That's it.
Well,
Melissa,
we
thank you for
appreciate
bringing
taking the
this.
time and joining us. And
We'll look forward to the email.
we'll look forward to your email
All
and
right, no
following up
problem.
on it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item C, boards, commissions, committee appointments. We've got the rec committee on here, and to be honest with you, I'm totally confused on some of the things. They're asking for a replacement of one position that I have not been able to verify with the town clerk has actually even resigned yet. We've informed the person that it has to be in writing to the town clerk. I haven't seen verification of that yet. We have another position that they're asking to appoint Dave Roston as an alternate, which we've already done. I'm confused on that one. And so anyway, I'm going to recommend we don't take any action regarding the rec committee, at least until our next meeting when we have a chance to get more clarification on this.
Bill, I did do some research. Some time ago, you had mentioned that you thought an alternate on that commission could serve as the chair. No, they cannot. Okay, an alternate is there to replace a person who is not present, who is a regular member. So I just wanted to let you know I did follow up on that.
Thank you.
So hopefully we'll get this, I know Sandra should know how to do her resignation, which is to the town clerk.
Yeah, there was an email that transpired, but I reminded them that my understanding was that it had to be in writing to the town clerk. Anyway, we're sorting that out, and we'll have a better report next week. Economic development, as you know, we've got vacancies for Gary Lawrence and also Richard Williams, but I've got no recommendations. I know that they've had a meeting since then, and they're looking to get a couple of new members. So we'll just have to stay tuned on that. Commission on Aging, we're still trying to fill that, and we're working out some fine tuning on that. And again, we'll have an update on that. I met one of the members last week who had an idea, and we'll see where that goes, but I'll have more information for you in the future. Inland Wetlands Watercourse Commission, fill a vacant regular member and seat created by the resignation of Ray Finn. We have not got a recommendation on that, so we're encouraging our town committees or any public at large. If you have an interest, please let us know.
There'll also be an opening on that commission for Jack Barkley's seat.
Say it again, Chris, I'm sorry.
There'll also be another opening on the commission for Jack Barkley's seat.
All right, item D, tax refunds. Do we have any, Chris?
Linda has it. She wasn't in today, so I couldn't
Okay.
get it.
Okay. Remarks for the good of the board? Hearing none, we will move on. Items for next Board of Selectmen's meeting, which will be next Monday.
Can we get an update? Oh,
You
sorry.
care, it's, I was out in the woods quickly today and already pulled 2 ticks off me, so tick season is on the upswing.
I imagine especially with the recent moisture that we've got
Yeah.
after all the dryness.
Yeah, so.
Thanks, Roger. Catherine, you
Um,
had,
Yeah, I had something I wanted to make sure. Can we also get an update at the next meeting on what's being done about the people illegally riding on the roads and on motorbikes, et cetera?
yes,
You said
Yes,
you were
we'll
doing a
put it-
follow-up with Troop C.
we will do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
So moved to adjourn.
I'll second it.
I've got 7:41. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.